So yeah, today we're talking about the 2021 film The Worst Person in the World, and is directed by Joachim Trier. I believe that's how you say his name. I'm not 100% sure. So as you can see, I did give it a 4.5, and I ranked it on my 2022 rankings. I believe I put it like third. I put it third. Dune, Power of the Dog, Worst Person in the World. And I think Power of the Dog, Worst Person in the World. Oh, maybe I'll even put Worst Person in the World above it. I don't know. But I don't know. It's not going above Dune. Okay. That's just me, whatever. But man, it was incredible. It was so good, and even though of course it's always just the Oscar talk, blah blah blah. It was nominated for best, what do they call it now? They call it best international film as well as best original screenplay, which was a surprise when those nominations came out, and it was great to see. She was the best actress of last year. She won best actress at Cannes. Renate Rin Oh, I'm not even going to try. I don't want to try. I should have looked up how to say her name before. I just started saying it, and then I just cringed at myself. But yes, she did win Best Actress at the Cannes, which was great. And who won Best Actress at the Oscars? Like, I don't know. Because I forget. It's like they weren't as memorable. Like, if I think of 2021 performances, this is what I was going to think of. Like, she's absolutely incredible. And again, I definitely would have, like, yeah, this is one of the best pictures of that year as well, not just international. I haven't seen Drive My Car at all, but yeah, can't wait to watch that. Looking forward to it. But man, a combination of the writing and the performances, really. And those are the two things that did get a lot of credit as well. But yeah, it was great. It got a Criterion release, which was very cool to see just after like 1 year. And so yeah, it was directed by Joachim Trier, and he has directed a few other films. He has I think it's an official trilogy called the Oslo trilogy, and it's Reprise and Oslo August 31st. So Reprise was 2006, Oslo August 31st, 2011. And it has some similar actors. You have the main actress in this who is also in, oh, I forget which one is in one of them. Here, I can just look because I have Letterboxd open. I have the power to do that. So yes, we have Oslo 31st August. Yeah, she's in this one as well. And then the main guy is also Anders Danielsen Lee, who is Axel in The Worst Person in the World. And I didn't know where I recognized him from, but I actually recognized him for this movie, The Night Eats the World, which I actually do quite like. It's a French movie, La Nuit a dévoré le monde. And it's just a very like small zombie movie set in Paris. And it's just, he went to a party and he locked himself in a room when he just passed out, and then he woke up and the zombie apocalypse was upon him, and so he just is chilling and trying not to get eaten by zombies. And it's great. I really, really like this movie. And yeah, he did have quite a great performance, and I'm happy to see that he was in this. And yeah, he was also in Reprise. I don't think she was she? But yeah, as you can see, he is quite a Joachim Trier mainstay. So that's cool to see. And then who's the main three actors? Yeah, you got those two, and then you also have Herbert Nordrum as Eyvind. I think that's how you say it, Eyvind. And they are, it's the classic love triangle, except for it's very much not straightforward. This movie, I think, works so well just because I think everybody who's watched this movie, who is at least like, I don't know, 20 years old, probably has moments in it where it's like, damn, that's real. That's like relatable in some way. In like, not like the relatable way where it's like, oh, that's so relatable, that's so cool. Relatable in the way it's like, oh, I've felt those ugly feelings before and gone through something that at least made me feel that way. Had a similar train of thought than what this character is giving right now. And yeah, it's like such a, it feels so honest. And yeah, it's just writing, being a writer myself, it's just so difficult to make things natural. That's what writers are trying to do. They're just trying to make things seem natural and seem real, and this just knocks it out of the park. Absolutely kills it. And so, yeah, so I'll go through a bit of the plot here. Right now, we'll have spoilers for everything pretty much in the movie, talking more about it. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. This is one of the ones where I'm like, okay, yeah, don't actually listen to what I'm saying. Just go watch it because it's incredible. It's on Crave right now, so there you go. That's a way to watch it. I did wish I saw it in theaters, though. I know it wasn't really playing near me too much, but I could have traveled a bit and went to see it, and that would have been great. And yeah, but I did get to see it at least. So that's good. So the story was told in 12 parts plus prologue and epilogue. And I'm a person that very much likes things to be structured. I like movies that have, just any sort of structure, whether it be about like people or the structure. Maybe it's like a list of things. Like, it could be anything. I really do like when movies are like structured and cut up into specific parts. But in this movie, I really don't know how much it benefited the movie. I guess they did tackle specific topics, but 12 parts, what I was thinking in my mind sometimes is because I know it's in 12 parts and the movie's like just about 2 hours long. So I know that like the parts aren't going to be terribly long. So in my mind, when a part is going on for a while and there's maybe like a small lull, I'm thinking like, oh, this part's probably done soon. And just that small thought kind of like just took me out of it for a second. And I don't know how much it's needed. But then again, it does add some context, some contextual information, like when she got pregnant in the end and it says positive. I mean, you do see this, like the pregnancy test as well, so I guess it's not really terribly necessary. But in a way, they kind of feel like unofficial diary entries, I guess. And that's kind of cool because, that is a common thing that people do. And it could be, unofficial diary entries of these stages in this 3 years of her life. And so, I do like that. Thinking about it right now, I honestly just thought of that. So I do like that, but again, those little thoughts that I had where it's like, oh, this part's probably over shortly. It just took me out of it a bit, and I just don't know how much it really needed. Because like, if you take it out, I don't think that's something that you're missing. And then prologue and epilogue, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about that. It's just, okay, cool. But it's interesting. I do think it's bold, and it's something interesting to think about. So, interesting. And then also there is the occasional voiceover. And it was, I believe, an old woman doing the voiceover. I don't know if it's supposed to be a character that's actually in the movie doing the voiceovers. I couldn't really match the voice to any of the characters in the movie. Maybe it's like her when she's old, looking back on her life of that age. What was she in this movie? She was like 28, 29, 30, something like that. I feel like it said, but I forget. She had her 30th birthday in the movie, so around that age. So, it could be like her older self looking back on everything, which is an interesting way of looking at it. But a lot of people are very like show, don't tell, of course. That's a great principle. But voiceovers, when used correctly, I really love hearing the inner dialogue of somebody's brain and just, giving those more complex thoughts that showing maybe can't even do. Like, showing can add some ambiguousness, but this movie, I feel like, because the writing is so strong, you can have these voiceovers, and they're so well written as well that they're going to seem so real, and you're going to connect to them in a way, because so many of the decisions that people make in this movie, there's a lot of hard decisions that are being made, and listening to their thought process and them trying to process just everything that's going on is really interesting to hear. And it adds part of the like, oh, why are you thinking this? Because it's that weird thing where should people feel bad for their thoughts? Because if somebody has a really bad thought and they don't outwardly say it, nobody's going to know that they had it. Nobody's going to connect that thought with them. They're just the only person that knows it. And so now that we're hearing this inner dialogue of their brain, it's like two things. It's like, oh gosh, they're really thinking it like this way. And like the situation that they're in is so difficult. Or it can be like, two, well, they're thinking about it this way. And honestly, if I were in that situation, maybe I would be thinking that way too. Because it's those things that people inherently just don't say. And maybe everybody just sucks and has bad thoughts and just doesn't say them. I mean, that's probably true. So, alas, okay, getting more into the actual plot of the movie rather than just my random ramblings about the structure and everything. So, at the beginning of the movie, you have the voiceover, and in the prologue, we have her as a doctor. And then she realizes quickly that she doesn't really want to be a doctor of the physical body, but more of the mind. She's more interested in people's psychology, so she switches to a psychology major. And I believe at this point she's like 26, 27. And so her going back to school for psychology when she's like a bit older than everybody else, I mean, yeah, that's a big life change. A lot of people do that, and it's totally okay. But yeah, I guess being the older person going back into this younger person, I feel like the way I'm talking about this is so weird. So yeah, being older than everybody, all the other students that are probably just like straight out of high school, that definitely seems intimidating. It's not something that I've gone through, but I mean, just the thought of switching up your profession just on a dime is scary. And I'm sure everybody has had doubts about what they're doing in their profession and everything. So yeah, it's like one of those things where it's, yeah, she had the balls to do it. And yeah, so she switches her profession. And then after banging her psychology professor, she then decides, after flipping through her phone of these lewd pictures and then going to a previous picture of a very nice shadow, she's like, you know what? Photography is really my thing. So was it the professor who inspired this? No, I don't know. But that was just like, okay. I mean, there's so many of these like relatable things. You know what? I was going to say like, okay, nobody actually bangs the professor. But I mean, it has happened. It has happened. I don't know how common it is, but hey, she did that. Okay, so then she switches to photography. And so that's her passion now. She tells her mom these things. And I loved when she, like, I think it was her mom, right? Yeah, it was her mom. She tells her mom, like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to switch to psychology. Oh yeah, I'm actually going to switch to photography. And those are just fun little moments where she's like, oh yeah, you do what you want to do. Very supportive, modern mom. So I feel like that's very much like the new wave, or just like a modern way of thinking, that parents are very much more open to everybody following their passions, doing whatever they want to do. So that was cool. This is very much like, I think they really nailed the time frame. I think that, I don't know how old the director is, but he really nailed just the 21st century, even like the 2020s. It was very on the nose, whereas maybe some older writers could struggle with just like the general cultural feel of a movie. This absolutely knocked it out of the park for that. So, and again, it's just a testament to the writing. So after she gets into photography, she goes to a party and she sparks up a romance with Axel. And after meeting Axel, he is a cartoonist who makes these lewd comics, these R-rated comics. Oh, I forget what they were called. Oh God, I'm gonna look it up. What was a Bobcat? Bobcat. Yes. Okay. In Wikipedia, it says his politically incorrect comic series, Bobcat. And so yes, so she sparks up a romance with Axel, who is a comic artist who does these quite lewd comics called Bobcat about animals going on drugs, having sex with other animals, blah, blah, blah. Very lewd. And yeah, he's very much about his art. So when she meets Axel, they had a really good voiceover moment where when she first hooks up with him and then leaves, she steps a few steps onto the stairway, and then she said, that is the moment that I knew that I was falling in love with him. And that was right after where they have a conversation where Axel was kind of just foretelling their doomed romance. He's like, oh, I know exactly how this is going to go. We have this age difference. We're going to finally at some point decide that we need different things and that we shouldn't have started this in the first place, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's tough to hear. And you, at that moment in the movie, you kind of think, yeah, that is probably what's going to happen. And I feel like many people have maybe had friends or something that they've seen something similar happen to. And it's just, yeah, it is doomed. But then it's that thing where, yeah, they did have this spark, this romance, and they're just trying to get whatever happiness they can get out of it. And so, yeah, that was a moment where it's like, yeah, that voiceover really, really added a lot, saying that was the moment that she knew that she was going to fall in love with him. And so they eventually move in together. They go hang out with his friends who have a few kids running around. And then that's kind of like the chapter. I mean, I guess a lot of the movie, it is talking about kids and everything and when they're going to have kids, or if she even wants kids. And so, yeah, they're hanging out with their friends at this like nice cottage house thing. It was very nice. It was lovely. And these kids are running around like grabbing at her leg because they don't want to go to bed, and then just absolutely bawling their eyes out because they don't want to go to bed. And so she's watching that being like, yeesh, kids, man, kids. And so they've had the talk before, I think a few scenes before, and then they get into their place and they're like, and then Axel's like, hey, but I mean like kids. And then they have this like semi-mini argument about having kids and when's the right time to have kids, and are you ever going to want kids? What's holding you back? And Axel was being very, very pushy about it. I think this movie does a great job at showing each character's, they're very flawed characters, just like everybody in real life. It's like, yes, Axel was very much a dick in this scene, but he does also have redeeming qualities, and she definitely does a lot of things wrong as well in the movie. But again, she has very redeeming qualities, and that's just how humans are, and it does a great job at showing that as well. I'm just pumping up the writing as much as I can because, yeah, the writing is absolutely incredible. They're so complex, and that's what you want to look for in characters. And so, as they're arguing about kids, they hear one of their friends who are married and have kids argue because one of them didn't want to go dancing, but then she convinced her to go dancing, and she hurt her head on a chandelier when her husband was like picking her up, and she's blaming herself for bringing her to the dance floor. And so it's this interesting cut that I really thought was great, where it's like you hear them absolutely screaming at each other at night while they're just like in their beds, and you hear them just screaming at each other. And then the next morning, one of the very first things you see, she goes to get her coffee, she walks out, and she looks on the dock, and she sees both of them. They're on the dock, and they're kissing, and they seem to be fine. And it just speaks a lot to the different romances that are in this movie, and like how their marriage, their two friends, how no marriage or relationship can be perfect. And so even though they have that argument, what makes them work and makes them keep going on forward is that, hey, yeah, in the morning, they're all cool with each other. And it's just showing a lot of variety in the relationships in this movie that make you contrast them, and it's very interesting to think about, so that's cool. And so after all of that fiasco, at one point they're at a party for Axel's new book. So he has a new book. And so she's at the party, and it's very much, you can see that she's not having it. She's like, okay, I'm going to go home, Axel, blah, blah, blah. And she walks home, and then there's these great, there's another sequence in the movie as well, but these great sequences where she's just roaming the city, roaming Oslo. And I think that's what I just need to do in movies. Just have people wander around aimlessly in a city, because, like, they're absolutely beautiful. The shots that they got are beautiful of her just, like, looking off at the skyline, looking off at the water and everything. And so as she's wandering through the city, she walks into a party and meets Event. And so as she goes and meets this random guy at a party, they sit down together, and she says, oh, hey, guess who I know here? And he's like, oh, who do you know here? And she's like, nobody. She just walked in. And they have this, like, it's this, I don't know how to describe it. This small talk, this, like, cringy small talk that you look from afar and you're like, oh gosh, like, you guys are watching each other pee, really? But then it's one of those things where it's like, if you're that person and you're having those feelings, you're caught up in the moment. Yeah, it makes sense that you're doing that, and you definitely enjoyed the moment. You might look back on it and laugh, and again, writing, nailed it. It was great. It was the perfect amount of, like, cringe and, like, that kind of sweet, but, like, yeah, you just understand what they're going through in that moment. Yeah. And so they had this whole fiasco of, like, oh, what's the most borderline cheating? It's like their game that they're playing with each other. It's like, how far can we go and not cheat on our respective partners? What is the definition of cheating? And so they watch each other pee. They smell each other's armpits. Things like that. They blow smoke in each other's faces, as in this picture here. That's a great still. Absolutely incredible still. I'm just looking at it right now. It's great. And so, yeah, they go to the extent of not cheating. And then when they leave, they don't give any contact information because they know they're going to want to see each other, and that cheating is bad. And so they don't want to be tempted to see each other. But I think we all knew that, hey, yeah, eventually they're gonna find some way to find each other. And yeah, it's that thing where people define cheating as cookie cutter bad, and it is a bad thing. And you can just the writing, again, the writing is great. Relate to these people in this moment of them having those spontaneous feelings of, yeah, them just having the spontaneous feelings. Nothing, but yeah, in the moment, you also just have to, like, you see that happening, and maybe you forget about Axel and everything, and you see it in the moment, you're just like, oh, this is kind of cute, cringy, blah, blah, blah. But then you have to take the step back and really be like, yeah, okay, this isn't great, and they are cheating, So after that, yeah, she goes back with Axel, they're living together, still go on for a while, and she writes this article about, I forget exactly what the chapter was called, but it was like oral sex in the face of Me Too or something. And it was this very graphic essay about how a modern person can still enjoy oral sex, and that it shouldn't be mainstream that women don't like oral sex, something like that. I don't 100% remember. But then Axel reads it and she's like, oh yeah, this is great. And then, yeah, encourages her to publish it and everything. And she publishes it, shares it around, and everybody really likes it. I don't think they showed the entire thing, but they showed a bunch of it. Oh no, they had the voiceover. Maybe they did show a bunch of it. Okay, whatever. But yeah, so she has this newfound passion for writing. And so, yeah, she writes this article, and it'll come back later. The article comes back later. And so at one point, she has her birthday, and then they go to visit her father, who says that he couldn't come to see her on her birthday because he had a bad back. And so as they're at her father's, Axel kind of grills him about, oh, hey, so why didn't you come? And then you have his, I assume, stepdaughter come in, or maybe it's his daughter just with another woman come in. And they're like, oh, yeah, we were just at soccer that day, actually. And so they kind of don't outright say, it's like, oh, so you weren't actually not feeling it? You went to the soccer instead? And so, yeah, Dad is just a sleazy bad guy, and Axel questions him for it, makes it very awkward. And so, yeah, so I'm just trying to remember the main character's name again. Julie. Yeah, how could I forget that? So, yeah, make it very awkward for Julie. And so when they go home, after they go home, okay, so she's working at the bookstore right after that. And then as she's working in the bookstore, Even comes in, and yeah, game over. At that moment, she knew that Axel, bye-bye. It was a great scene. I really like how they staged that scene with Evind first coming in and this woman who's buying this book from her, and she notices that she keeps looking over at Evind, and then later on, a couple seconds later, oh yeah, that's his actual girlfriend. So, yeah, it was the staging of the scene is just great, and I think she's trying to find the book, Green Yoga, I think it was called. Green Yoga. And then I really actually did like how they used the segmented narrative, the chapter title in this one, where it's talking about Evind, because then we go into this whole thing with Evind about how he had this saga with his girlfriend that she found out that she was partly native, and then she started to care a lot about, world issues and everything like that. And so he did as well, of course, because of her. And then when Julie and Evind finally get together, he has this whole saga of thinking that he is the worst person in the world. That is the title of the movie. Because he's kind of breaking up with everything that she stands for, that his ex stands for, and it's like he's turning back on this awareness of the world. And so it makes him feel horrible that he's doing that. And yeah, I don't know. It was just a great chapter in the entire movie. I really, really did like that chapter a lot. And so, yeah, before Julie and Evind started going out together, we had this dinner with Axel and his friends. He's talking about how the movie adaptation of his comic just was horrible. And I mean, when they showed that poster, that poster was absolutely horrible. It looks just like some crappy Illumination animated movie or something like that. And yeah, I really like, the great artwork for that. As in, like, the movie, whoever made The Worst Person in the World did a great job at making a crappy movie poster for that fake movie in this movie. If that makes sense. Yes. And so, one of the best scenes in the movie is when she comes down. she comes down in the morning and Axel is there pouring a cup of coffee. She flips a light switch and the whole world freezes. And so she runs, again, another running scene in Oslo. She runs to that coffee shop that Even told her about when he went to the bookstore. And she finds him. She kisses him. They have this whole day together. Everybody else is still frozen. And yeah, it was just great to look at. The music was swelling. The soundtrack also really great in this movie. And yeah, it was just such a great movie. It was done very, very well. At some points, it kind of did seem like the people were kind of just like copy pasted in this frozen atmosphere. But still, I did think it was done very, very well. And I liked it a lot. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of the standout sequences in the entire movie. It was awesome. And so she starts going out with Evind and everything, blah, blah, blah. And there's also another great scene where she starts to trip on shrooms. I mean, tripping, dreamlike shroom scenes are great. Always love them. I feel like I could unpack that scene more. The one where she's tripping out. She's like this fat, naked lady and everybody's like groping her. And then just a bunch of crazy stuff happen. And I mean, the scene works very well. I feel like there's more to unpack because I mean, like dreams and trips, there's always in movies, there's always something to unpack there. And I feel like when I was watching, I was just like going along for the ride, didn't really think about it too intensely. So maybe that's something that I'll go back to and think about. But yeah, so as she's going out with Evind, there's a few things that happen. I think the first thing is that she sees a interview while at the gym of Axel, and this it's this absolutely like crazy. It's like this interview that you would watch on YouTube because you're like, oh, this guy got so mad. These people got so mad in this interview. It's so heated. But then when you actually know somebody in that, it's just like, oh gosh. And it's like the feeling relating that to her just like felt so weird because it's this person that she knew very intimately in this kind of horrible argument about, I don't even remember. It's like, oh, this is so crass and he's so vulgar in the comic and it's so inappropriate for now. And yeah, it's these two reporters kind of just barraging him about that. And it was just, oh gosh. I don't really know what to say about it. It was just the feeling that you get from that scene is exactly what, I mean, it's just the writing. It works so well. And it felt so modern, again, placing us in the 21st century in the 20s. Nobody really says the 20s, but we are in the 20s right now. So we just have to own that we can now call this the 20s as we used to call the previous one the 2010s. Oh, 10s? You could call it the 10s. Okay, I'm going off topic, but still. Yeah, she sees that. And then after that, at one point when she's with Evind and he finds her piece of writing, her old piece of writing, it came back. Said it would come back. And he's like, oh, did you write this? And then she starts to get mad that he went through her stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then they have this whole argument. And after that, they have that argument, blah, blah, blah. Okay, starts to have some animosity towards Evind. And then she finds out it has the title card, which I thought was pretty. Honestly, I thought it might be relating to COVID because this is a COVID-era movie. Even at the very end, they have masks and everything. Because it said positive, but no. She finds out that she's pregnant. She got a positive pregnancy test. And so a whole fiasco begins. So she starts to become distant with Evind when she finds out, Axel is dying. So she's at a bookstore. She meets one of his old friends, and he's like, oh, you didn't know that he's dying? And so, I mean, yeah, it's this person that she loved very much, and she goes back and hangs out with him for a bit. And it's just like this heart-wrenching, him gushing everything that he wants to say to her, saying that she's the love of his life. She was the one love of his life. And, oh, man, I think topics that get me the most, like, icky or make me the most sad are, like, people with terminal illnesses and sickness. It's like, oh, gosh. It's just so scary. It really is just so scary. And, again, the writing of his character trying to process what he's going through. I think it was pancreatic cancer that he had, and him just talking about like the process of him figuring out how he had it. It started with like him getting jaundice, everything going yellow, this small pain in his chest and everything. And then they go back to his old apartment where he looks out these colored tile windows, and he talks about how those colored tiles were the inspiration to all of his comics. And then you look out the colored tiles yourself and just like the entire world being shaded with that color, it did feel very like comic book-esque, and like you can see where it's coming from, which is great to see. It's not just him saying stuff. You physically see the space that he's in, and they did it so well with those colored tiles. And yeah, it was brutal. And yeah, so as she's like connecting with him, kind of like doing her due diligence of like, okay, this guy's dying, I better, go like be nice to him, whatever. And so one day she's working at the bookstore, and she gets a call from the friend. She's like, oh yeah, he's not gonna last the night probably. And she doesn't go see him again. She just strolls throughout Oslo again, a classic, her strolling through Oslo scene. And yeah, and I think actually, no, before that scene, we had her talking to Even, saying like, oh yeah, we both don't know what's going on. Hey, I'm pregnant actually, and we both don't want kids. I just need time. I think that's what she says, I just need time. And so she officially breaks up with Even as well, and she's all on her lonesome. So there's 2 chapters, or should I say 12 chapters, those 2 guys in her life that were very important to shaping her are now gone. And then it goes to the epilogue, which I think was a great finish to the movie. She gets a new job as a BTS photographer on a film set, and so she goes to capture stills of this actress that the director was kind of just telling her, oh, be sad, look more sad. And so she can tell that actress isn't really having the best time. She gets stills, she tries to relate with her, and then she looks out the window, and as the actress is leaving, she has a kid with Evind, who said he was never going to want kids. What a liar. But that's just such a great melancholic feel at the very end. And then at the very end, she's like going back home, she's editing these movies, and she honestly doesn't seem too impacted by it. Yeah, she's moved on. And I think the entire movie is, again, encapsulates just a modern 20s atmosphere so well. And I think being in the 20s myself, knowing a lot of people going through university trying to figure out what they want to do, I think this captures perfectly people going around, jumping from idea to idea, trying to figure out what they want to do. And yeah, that's with her. I mean, at the very beginning, you have her trying to figure out what she wants to major in, if she wants to be a doctor, if she wants to go into psychology, then to photography, and also dabbling in writing. And I think that also just carries over to not just academically wise, not just career wise, but also just to her relationships and everything, that people in the 21st century, I guess it also can connect to kind of like attention span and everything, whereas media is so fast and everything, people going from one thing to another, always on screens, that people have a hard time settling down, choosing one thing in any aspects of their lives. And it could be a cause of just, modernity, technology, and everything. But I think the main thing that I took away from this movie is that, nobody's perfect. And I think that title is a perfect title to say that. Because in the modern day and age, there is so much social media blasting at you, telling at you how you should think, people trying to tell you their opinions and what you should think about everything. And I think with the state of the world, in my opinion, one of the biggest things, climate change, and of course, injustice, just how horrible the world is. Living her life in Oslo, in a pretty decently developed country, and just, I think the context of knowing about everything that's going on in the world, and I guess it kind of touched upon with Even's ex-girlfriend and everything that she stood for, that there's so many things going on in the world, and that her problems, her relationship problems, her career problems are what she's worrying about, and it makes her feel like, oh, like these are the things that I'm worrying about, rather than everything in the world, can make you feel like the worst person in the world, and make you feel like you're not doing things right. And I think that in the 20s, it's hard to feel like you're doing everything right. And so, because there's so many things telling you opinions and everything, that you're not going to do everything right. And it's so much of people, so many bad things going on in the world that, I'm trying to phrase this correctly. It feels like because you're trying to just worry about yourself, it's making you feel like you have to do everything right to be just like borderline good person, but like everyone's different. Everyone does some bad things. Nobody's perfect. I think, yeah, that's like, if we're just boiling it down to main message of the movie is that, yeah, nobody's perfect. Mistakes are going to be made no matter what. Looking back on her time with Evind and the not cheating and everything, I'm sure, I mean, if I look back onto the movie, similarly to how she might look back onto it as a memory of doing that, she might be like, oh yeah, maybe cheating wasn't like the coolest thing, but yeah, life is hard, and this movie was absolutely incredible. And yeah, it kind of reflected that with the general consensus. I mean, what is it on Letterboxd? Got a 4.1. That's pretty darn great. Let me look up the worst person. Wait, no, just Oscars 2021. I think it should just show the noms and everything if I go on Wikipedia. So, I spelled worst wrong. Okay. The worst. Okay, so let's go to Best International Feature. Wait. I meant to go 94th Academy Awards, not 93rd. Oh, wait. Oh, I put 94th. It said 93rd Academy Awards in the top, and I changed the 3 for 4, so it said 94th Academy Awards. Okay, so nominees, let's see. So, yeah, okay, they're both here. Best Original Screenplay, we have Belfast as the winner. Oh, I guess you can't really see it very well. I need to move my camera. Ruh-roh. So, Belfast was the winner for Best Original Screenplay. Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Worst Person in the World. I would hands down give this to Worst Person in the World. Hands down. The fact that I just gushed about the writing for like 40 minutes straight, it made the movie what it was. It absolutely captured the vibe of the 20s so well. Belfast is great. I really do like Belfast. I know a lot of people give it slack, but I really, really love Belfast. Worst Person in the World writing is just out of this world. Best International Feature Film. I've seen Flea and Worst Person in the World. I think Worst Person in the World, I definitely prefer that. Again, just got to go see Drive My Car. That's what I got to do. What'd you say here? Sorry. My chat isn't... Yeah, it, like, hands down the best screenplay out of all these. Like, I'm trying to argue, like, the fact that it's put along beside Don't Look Up and King Richard is, like... It's just so incredibly top tier out of all these. Like, probably one of the best written movies in the past decade. So, yeah, Best International Feature Film. Honestly, I can't say too much. Haven't seen Drive My Car. I've seen Flea, which was great. Documentary. But, man, yeah, Worst Person in the World in this is great. Seems like a great class of international feature films. I'm trying to remember what was here. I'm gonna go back to the year before, 93rd Academy Awards. International. Oh, Another Round. Okay, I did love Another Round. Honestly, Another Round is I think my favorite movie of 2021. Wait, no, of 2020. Worst Person in the World, Another Round. Which one do I like better? I don't know. They're both so incredible. Okay, but if we're looking at the Oscars and just everything else, what else should it have been nominated for? Best Picture? Yes. Best Director instead of Steven Spielberg? Yes. Best Actor? No, I guess there's not a leading actor. Best Actress? It was Jessica Chastain that won. Nobody watched The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Nobody. Yeah, she is 100% should have won Best Actress. She was the best actress of the year by far. Supporting actor, honestly, the guy who played Axel was absolutely incredible. His stuff when he was dying at the end, like, that was great. That was incredible. I mean, Troy Kotsur was great too. But, yeah, I think he definitely should have been there too. What else we got? International Feature Film. Yeah, it is there. Anything else? I mean, the score was pretty great. I guess it's not original. It's just a bunch of known music, but yeah, score was great. I guess nothing. Cinematography, maybe actually. Cinematography could be up there too. Cinematography was beautiful. I mean, the classic running through Oslo scenes were absolutely great. I mean, if you count editing as like that one scene where she's frozen time and everything, yeah, it really should have. Really should have. It's a tragedy. Because, like, yeah, as I've been gushing about for quite a while here, her performance plus the writing made this movie. Absolutely made the movie. And yeah, I'm very, very happy that I watched it. It was one of those movies where I think while I was watching it, the feeling while I was watching it was like a little uncomfortable just because of how real it felt, and just getting this insight into something that feels, into these characters that feel so real and their flawed, unique decisions that they're making, and hearing the narration of their inner monologues. Or I guess it wasn't their inner monologues, just like talking about what they're thinking. That was, yeah, it just, ugh. Some of it, like, yeah, the cheating scene, her going to hang out with him when he's dying, oh, that was just brutal to watch. But it was just so heart-wrenching and amazing. And some people market this as a rom-com. This is not a rom-com. This is a rom-dram. There really is, I don't think there's much comedy in this movie. Like, I don't classify their little small talk of them getting to know each other as comedy. This is not, I don't think this is comedy, but that's fine. That's fine. It's not the type of, I don't love this type of movie unless it's done absolutely incredibly like it is here. Like, there's so many of these kind of movies that are made, and I'm really not the core market for these movies. But this one is just so likable, and I think it's kind of like a love letter just to people of this century. If anybody watches it from the ages of like 18 to 30, you're gonna get something out of this movie, which is great. Yeah. I don't really think I have too much else to say about this movie. I'm definitely going to continue to talk to people about this movie, continue to tell people to watch this movie. I'm definitely going to Drive My Car at some point this week as well. Get the, maybe those are going to be at the top of my 2021 list now. Wait, thinking about it right now, I kind of do just want to bump it up. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong thing. I want to go to lists. I'm just going to bump it up above Power of the Dog. I'm going to do it. Thinking about it now, it's just, yeah. I'm sorry, it's not going to surpass Dune. Wait, you can barely see this. It's not going to surpass Dune or anything, because I'm a Dune fanboy. But, yeah. I think that with this year, 2021, it was an interesting year, because there was quite a few things that were pushed back and everything. I think looking at it a few months ago, I was like, it's a bit lackluster. I think after you hit like Belfast, everything else is like, yeah, it's pretty good. Nothing like remarkable that I'm going to tell people about. But man, these top core really are great. I think Nightmare Alley personally is great. I really, really like Nightmare Alley. Because Guillermo del Toro, his genre movies are just incredible. I keep pressing back by accident. I mean, Spider-Man is Spider-Man. It's a feel-good movie. Tick, Tick, Boom, such a, well-done, unique musical. And you can't see it here, but I have also Titane, another Oscar snub right there. Yeah, great movie. And I'm looking forward to adding Drive My Car, maybe in Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, the other Hamaguchi movie that came out in 2021 to this list. I'm sure those are both great. I've heard nothing but good things. So, yeah, that is the Cine-Club talk about worst person in the world today. I do have to choose one for next week. An older choice for next week. I'm choosing Charade from 1963 with Audrey Hepburn. And I'm choosing this movie mainly because my thesis film that I did in university, I also called it Charade. And so I got to compare to see what the superior charade is, really. But I've heard good things. I'm pretty sure this has a Criterion. I've heard good things about it. Audrey Hepburn. I don't know if I've ever seen an Audrey Hepburn movie. I don't think I've seen anything. Yeah, zero. Never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's. But, hey, I think the genres for charade is a mystery, comedy, romance. So, could be a good time. Could be a good time. But that is going to be next week. Next week is what? The 8th? August 8th? Yeah. Next week, August 8th, we'll be talking about 1963 Charade.